This tutorial is about calibrating your brush and your screen. So we're working here most of all with Wacom screens and brushes, and we know that this is a very expensive material and we would like to keep them as good as new or don't scratch them. So the first thing to pay attention on is to see if the tip of the brush or the pencil is round and not sharp. And the second thing to understand is at the moment we start painting on our screen, this is a pressure sensitive brush. So if you don't do much pressure on the screen, we're going to have a very soft trace coming out of the brush, and at the moment you use more pressure, it's going to be darker and darker. Sometimes we would like to have a brush that gives us a little bit more of this gray scale and less of the really dark one. So if I go to the black, and I would like to have something that gives me more of the texture and more of the gray, it's probably interesting to calibrate the brush so that I can really be working in this gray scales. And if I would like just to be really filling up an area with very dark color all the time, maybe it's interesting to calibrate it to be able to give more color with less pressure. And sometimes, really depending on how you wake up, you have more strength or less strength on your hands. So sometimes I really calibrate my brush depending on the tool I'm using or how I'm sitting in front of the computer or for the use I really need. So to get started, we go to Corel Painter. In German it's called Voreinstellung, and here we have down below Malverhalten. If you would like to use the shortcut for it, is Shift Command Comma. And here we get a little screen for you to start doing a trace, and you can give like a very soft trace or you can give a very strong trace. Usually I just recommend to make like a normal trace with like a medium kind of pressure. But for us to see how this works, I'm going to make first a very soft trace on the screen. You can see here as well under the graphic how it behaves itself, and I'm going to confirm this, and like I'm trying to make a very soft line, a continuous soft line on the screen, and this is almost impossible. So I get a very strong pressure on the screen, although I'm not making any pressure through my hands. I can see that everything gets filled up with a very good amount of color. So if I do the opposite, going back to Corel Painter, Voreinstellung, Malverhalten, if instead of making a very soft line, I do a very strong line on the screen, we can see here as well how the graphic behave itself. I can now really, like I'm doing some pressure and nothing comes out, I'm doing a lot of pressure and now some color is coming out, but it's impossible to really make it dark unless I'm starting to scratch my screen. So this is something I would avoid. If you're using the computers afterwards in the university, for example, and you see that the color is not coming through your brush, try first to go to Malverhalten and change the calibration of your brush to something normal, like make a normal trace, a normal strength on the screen, and we can see now I have a beautiful gray line, and at the moment I make a tiny little bit more pressure, like a healthy amount of pressure, I can get it quite dark. So if I do a little bit more pressure, I have it even darker, but I have the feeling that this is good for my screen, and I'm not going to be scratching my screen if I do this amount of pressure. Another way to calibrate your screen, if your brush is not really on the place you would like to have, like this one is quite good calibrated, but at the moment you have your brush on one position and this kind of brush goes somewhere else, you can just go to Apple Systemeinstellung in German, you go to the Wacom tablet, and here we have on Pro Pen, you have calibration, and you can now really sitting where you are without really inclining yourself to the cross, just sitting where you are, go with your arm to the middle of the crosses on every single corner of the screen. Check. Okay, confirming. and now pen and screen should be calibrated so that the tip of your pen is going to be really touching the area where you're painting. Okay, so repeat this function if you need any single time it's necessary, and good use of your Wacom material. Bye bye.